Friday. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining today.
I'm overjoyed too.
Oh, I'm thrilled. So for those who are just joining right now, it is Friday. If you're listening to this after the fact, it's Friday afternoon. This is our third week of doing these Posthoc live salons, experimenting. And we do them on Fridays. We're doing them a little bit later because then we have live music. So after I talk to Chris, we're going to have live music from New York with Nikki, DJ Nix, and Aku. And they're in Brooklyn, and they are going to live stream for us. They DJ frequently, almost all the time, when we're doing salons in New York. So it's awesome to have them here this evening. And then from LA, straight out of Echo Park, is Lena, otherwise known as Tough Ghost, and she is also going to live stream tonight. So very much a Friday atmosphere, because there are days of the week, even though we may have forgotten that. So Chris is a longtime veteran fashion and culture reporter, also writes about or has written about sin stocks, gambling, which I want to talk about a little bit as well, because I'm curious how they will do in this economy. But she's written for the Wall Street Journal for many years, did a very recent, I can't remember, it was a month ago, huge cover story on Kanye. And anyway, I thought she'd be super interesting to talk to about the fashion industry and retail, because I sensed and we read that they were not having the best of times before we were in the middle of pandemic, and now and it really sort of hit straight to them during Milan Fashion Week, as everyone started wearing masks during the Fashion Week. Were you there, Chris?
I did not go to Milan Fashion Week.
You didn't? Okay.
Oh God, I was in Paris right after, and
okay,
all these, I was trying to avoid all the people who just come from Milan. Honestly, I think I did it successfully, knock wood, because I've been healthy. But that feels like a year ago, just mindset wise. Like,
right. When was that? That was like middle of February, right?
That was the last week of February 1st. I think I got back like March 2nd, something like that. But that was literally like a year ago, sort of emotionally for all of us.
Right. And were some of the editors already not turning up?
You know what happened? I actually got very nervous as one of the things I was doing in Paris. I was going to Fashion Week, and I was also finishing up reporting for that Kanye piece that I did. So I couldn't leave. I was stuck in Paris until he did his fashion show at the very end of Fashion Week. And all these editors that entire week were getting pulled back by their organizations. So the WSJ Magazine editors got pulled back. All the Condé Nast editors got pulled back. And I'm watching them going, what do they know that I don't know? And am I going to be stuck in Paris? I had a whole contingency plan that if I got stuck there, that I was going to go up to Normandy, where we have some friends. And I thought, well, I can just like stay out the COVID duration.
Right. Well, you'd still be there for sure, right?
It'd probably be better if they'd shut the border down. Actually, a better world would be if I were stuck in Europe and couldn't get back. But,
for sure.
But we wouldn't have traveled.
Could you, just to sort of set the scene, do you have any retail or fashion stats that you could give us?
Stats are changing every day. It's like, for a reporter, this is actually a frightening moment, because you can do interviews and write a piece today.
Oh, and then the stats
tomorrow it's over. It's like things are changing so quickly. But there are some, and honestly, I know that things are really bad. It's the only industry that's maybe doing worse than retail right now is the hotel and travel business.
Cruises.
Oh, God. Would anybody ever go on a cruise again?
I sort of feel like the cruise lines might also have kind of had their day, right? for fashion.
Somebody actually, they're actually, some of them are not eligible for the U.S. relief package because they're headquartered offshore to avoid taxation, so they're getting theirs back. Anyway, but there are still pockets of things that I find really interesting. Like when you talk to, okay, we know things aren't selling and people aren't who wants to buy, a Gucci handbag right now? I don't know. But there are things that people are doing and they are buying and spending online. And I think those are so telling and fascinating about shifts culturally. Like loungewear, companies are selling. I've talked to several companies that sell like pajamas and sweats.
Sure.
They've sold more sweats in the last 2 weeks than they did the entire year.
Wow. I'm getting a lot of adverts for sweats. I'm not a big sweat wearer, but I'm getting a lot of that.
That's exactly what's happening, though. Sweats, wellness products, things like that. So, there are things that I'm finding it fascinating that I talk to company after company that are saying that they're sending out fewer emails, but that their open rates on their emails have skyrocketed to many, 8 to 10 times as many being opened as is normal. So somehow people are sitting at their laptops or their phones and they're actually opening emails that they were deleting before. Why is that? I haven't found anybody with an answer. Maybe you have an idea.
Well, I mean, I suppose people are just, more receptive right now, and they want more distractions and retail therapy, even if it's in your imagination, is a distraction from looking at the front page of the online newspaper, I guess. I don't know. I'm just
I don't know either, but I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know what's going on, but we're all, we're trapped in these places, and we're shifting our desires tremendously. I love how not everybody, but so many people who are suddenly transferred to doing things on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever mode they're using, have completely forgotten all of the sort of rules of business and how you look. They're going online, with no makeup, their dogs barking in the background or their kids crawling into their laps. No big deal. I've had conference calls where people have been answering the door, holding their phone and it's the mailman. Hi.
Now, before 6 weeks ago, what were the big issues in the fashion industry that were already sort of negative issues affecting them, such as environmental or what have you? What were they going into this with?
And this is I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, there have been a number of them. Some are sort of navel gazing in the industry. What do consumers want? Are they shifting? Should we make more clothes for 45-year-old women? Those are sort of underlying things. But sustainability is something that came very much to the fore in the last year. The concerns about climate change sort of clicked with people. We've seen a ton of greenwashing, which is not good. You don't want that sustainable, labels being stuck on everything. But it's become very clear that consumers care about it. And I've been concerned that we're going to lose some of that. Now people are more worried about disease than they are about sustainability. But I'm actually not. I still remain very optimistic. I've even recently started to see some discussion about sustainability and how it's linked to what's going on now with COVID and the need to protect the planet. So we may get an extra boost out of this. It's too early to say, coming out.
I mean, I suppose on the one hand, right, people are looking and seeing photos from India or wherever. It's like, oh, we can now see the Himalayas and we couldn't see it beforehand. So that needs to kind of be PR'd a little bit, right?
It really does. I saw that, by the way. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
From India. Oh.
I suppose with that then makes me think of fast fashion and how many folks, what is it, like 80% of Bangladesh's export are clothes?
Yeah, I didn't even realize, I write about this, I didn't realize how severely Bangladesh's economy had turned into a clothes.
80% is
insane, right?
Yeah.
No economy should ever be 80%.
Right.
That's terrifying. And especially not apparel. It's not even, it's not a high profit. If you're going to be 80% something, be 80% oil.
Right.
Like something with a high profit margin.
Yeah.
No, it's on the one hand, it's heartbreaking because there are factory workers in Bangladesh who are out of work and are going to end up on the streets. And that's a horrible thing. On the other hand, fast fashion was never good for the planet. It was never good for anybody. Nobody has needed more clothing in their closet, certainly not more fast fashion, for a long time. And we all know it's being landfilled and it's terribly toxic. We also know that those jobs are not great jobs. Even in Bangladesh, a lot of those people are being badly mistreated. So I think saving the fashion industry is probably not the answer to that. Certainly, we need to not forget there's a nation that needs to switch to another form of economy. I don't know about, fast fashion is going to have a hard time coming back from this. They're the first ones to get cut.
And same with haute couture, I would imagine as well. I mean, at the polar opposite end, do you think how is that going to come back? Or very wealthy people always have money, and is it really just a marketing expense for the big brands?
There's definitely a marketing expense, and I can imagine that might be the part that will get hurt. The haute couture that's made for women who actually wear haute couture, as somebody pointed out to me the other day, when several billionaires said they were donating significant portions of their billions to COVID relief. And it sounds like a lot of money, but they're still billionaires. Even after they give away $2 billion, they still have some more, right? So they got, and that's
Twitter guy. That was it. Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey. Yeah, he was one of them. The Gates Foundation is doing great stuff too. But I think that those, at the haute couture level of client, those people's lifestyles are really never impacted terribly by recessions. We saw the same thing in 2008 and 2009. And I have to say I was outspoken in the Great Recession as saying I quit going to the haute couture shows for years. I said, well, that is over. That's industry. It's obviously gone.
You learned your lesson.
Could not. It was a resurgence of haute couture. Right.
I was reading an article last night. Like sales are up for magazines, but obviously advertising is down. But is this the end of fashion magazines forever? I guess it was an opinion piece. I was like, I don't know. Fashion to me is it's an escape, right? When times are lousy, I want to look at pretty photos, so I'm not thinking about the bills coming in, Yeah.
And I think we're also seeing, in some cases, more substance coming from fashion magazines, which weirdly started with Teen Vogue.
Hard work now. They're really hard work. You've got to they're very serious articles.
Yeah, it's really true. You're making me work, people.
Here comes Vogue. It's going to be super political and intellectual. I better sit down and do that on Sunday afternoon.
It's the Playboy model. Remember, I only read it for the articles. Now soon we'll be able to say that about Vogue.
Yeah, do people still do that for Playboy? PJ O'Rourke, I know. It used to be good writing.
There used to be great writing.
Great writing.
I think I was a little young for it, but whatever.
How do different generations think of fashion, from Gen Z and millennials to Gen X and what have you? Can you give us some stereotypes?
There are too, by the way. Guess who's still shopping right now?
Gen Z, for sure.
Absolutely.
They're buying from. They're not buying very much, and they're not feeling that hurt. And a top is $5,
and they're not feeling the fear.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I have two of them in my household, so I can really see. Okay. I can really see this. They're just like, enough of this stuff already. Stop being so worried. My husband and I are like, oh my God, the sky is falling. And they're like, whatever. But it's true. It's easier to be optimistic when you're 18 or 19, right?
You have lots to lose as well. I just think also, we with folks who work with us are in their 20s. And I just think when I was in my 20s, I was sort of fearless. You don't have much to lose. You're already pretty broke.
Exactly. Exactly. There's only up to go. Exactly. True. There's lots of other stereotypes. And I'm seeing one of the things I'm trying to do right now as a reporter is I'm looking for the bright spots. Where are the winners and losers coming out of this? And where's there going to be opportunity, and who's making the pivot very quickly? I loved to see designers. Christian Siriano was one of the first ones to sort of make the pivot to making masks and gowns, right?
Yeah,
God, who I'm waiting for the first Louis Vuitton hospital gown to end up on eBay. Really? I mean, those are going to be amazing.
Wow, of course.
Parisian hospitals getting those things. Somebody's going to. Anyway.
None of them turned up on the catwalk, did they? I mean, I know there were masks. It's very Burning Man chic. Everyone who goes to Burning Man is well prepared for the current situation.
Oh, good for you. So you have like your little Burning Man.
I've only ever been once, but I do have a mask. But but everyone, you need lots of masks. So like Burning Man people are very prepared for the apocalypse.
Well, I was not, man. I need some masks. I was on Etsy buying masks last week. I'm still waiting for them to come.
I think some people got banned from selling on Etsy masks. I saw that because they used the term COVID. I saw a friend of mine who was selling on there, and she said that she got kicked off for doing that. But
because people would think it was sort of hospital.
I don't know. I didn't read too closely. I just thought that was
whatever.
But anyway, back to
go back to opportunities. I spoke with a CEO of an apparel company. Was it yesterday or the day before? Who said that they are shifting products that they're making and timing in their marketing, and they're looking for what they called white space, so markets that are not being attended to closely. And for one of those markets is women of a certain age. I've been hearing for many years brands saying that they were finally going to address women of a certain age. They know that that's where the money is.
I'm not entirely sure what women of a certain age is. What is the age?
Most brands, if you ask them, they'll say, 40 to 55, but they really mean 40 and above, right? Okay. But it's a space where women are choosier and they've already figured out a lot of their brand allegiances, right? So they're not as wide open to new brands. They're not as easy to fit. A lot of them have gotten heavier and square over time, so they're hard in terms of apparel. But that's where the money is. I mean, they actually have a lot of money to spend, and because clothes are often not designed to fit them well, they spend their money on handbags and shoes. Accessories as opposed to apparel, but it's a wide open space for apparel. People will start to solve that. We'll see.
I was miles away there when you were saying people of that age are buying shoes. I'm thinking I can't buy shoes because I run so much, so I buy the apparel instead.
Why can't you buy shoes? Because you only wear running shoes.
I just have really badly shaped feet from running so much.
Oh my God. Oh no! Are you wearing sneakers and Birkenstocks? Or I feel like I've seen you in some pretty good.
I'm literally like right now. Where's my thing? Yeah. Well, I can show you. Well, anyway, they're boots. I'm wearing very big boots.
That's very chic. So you are.
These are super chic boots. Yeah, they are.
Those are nice.
Yeah. They're. But I don't fall into that category of buying many shoes because I don't fit into clothes. But what about so what was I thinking? Something folks. Oh, I know what I was thinking also while you were saying that. I've noticed over the last couple of years, and I guess this would make sense, that a lot of the time on the covers of magazines, which was not the case when I was growing up, where it was supermodels, it's a lot of celebrities who are 45 and over.
Yeah, that's very new, isn't it?
And that's super new. I'm like, oh, they're younger than me. They're younger than me.
Yeah, I know that was
21-year-old. But I guess
this is magazines trying to find themselves. You know, the fashion magazine industry has they've been trying to find themselves for quite a few years now. But I think there is I don't know how to put this. Do you remember when sort of grandpa chic clothing? I mean, now we're going back.
Not too long ago, was it? I mean, or
sort of been creeping along. I forget the rapper who wrote about it. Oh, come on, this is probably 8 years ago now. Anyway, when people were shopping and started shopping in vintage stores, it became cool for Gen Z to shop at Goodwill, things like that. And I think that goes hand in hand with sort of a respect for older people. And I've been seeing that there's, look, Bernie, he's not a sex symbol, but he's certainly a grandpa love symbol, right?
How is a company like The Real going to do? And for those who don't know, The Real it's secondhand, right? Have they gone public? They have gone public, I think, the NASDAQ. Yeah. But it's very well curated in that it's just not a handful, but a small number of designers, and everything is authenticated. How will they do you think, in this current situation? I think they're still expensive, frankly, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean they're not. I mean they have a range, and they've broadened their range. Now they used to be, when they launched, they were very picky, and they're picking a lot more stuff, and a wider number of brands, and more into contemporary brands. They do men's now. I think they may even do children's. It's interesting. I don't have the answer for you on that, but I have to say I've had a lot of questions about them the last few weeks. They
sure.
on their mailing list. I've both bought and sold.
Yeah, they're expensive. So I would imagine that I found, because living in Soho, I was surrounded by designers there, and then they're also right around the corner. And when you go in, their clothes seem to me, it's a great deal if you're really into Chanel and you're happy to spend $2,500 on a jacket, which I never will be, because it's still cheaper than it would be for new. But their prices are it's still pretty expensive. I mean, it's not sort of the average consumer, I don't think so.
Not at all. And their marketing messages in the last few weeks have just been buy more, buy more, buy more, great deal on Versace. And somehow, I don't know, I wince a little bit at those. It seems it's, sort of like wrapping somebody's on the back at a funeral. You just want to tamp it down a little.
Right. Okay, fashion influencers.
What's going to happen to them?
What's going to happen to fashion influencers? I mean, do we always thought they were silly, or are they sillier now, or do they just need to be quiet for a little while?
You know what? I think
take photos in their pajamas.
Do you follow any, by the way?
I don't follow any at all. Yeah. No, I don't. I don't.
I don't follow any as fans. I follow some, and sort of in and out of their spheres, just sort of professionally interested in it.
Sure. That gal from Italy is crazy. Chiara or whatever. I mean,
Ferrigni, yeah. She's smart though. She's on what's the not Project Runway, it's the new Project Runway.
The new one that I saw that was just coming out. Yeah. Smart. It's interesting to follow from the business. I can't watch it too seriously otherwise.
She is a smart with this. She's a fashion influencer who is gone somewhere. Not even going to say going somewhere. She's gone somewhere. I mean, we have an internet, and there are people who are going to use social media well, and they'll have their moments. And I don't think fashion influencers are going away in that sense, but I don't even know how you define that anymore. I mean, look at me. I'm a woman in my 50s, and I've got brands coming to me asking to pay me as an influencer.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Are they bots? And they're not. I mean, come on here.
I don't know.
They've gone crazy. They're just. I think it's because of Twitter influencers, which is really odd. I'm on Instagram, but with not very many followers. And so when that started to happen with regularity, this happens to me on a weekly basis, I realized that it's just anybody can be an influencer, and that's not an industry anymore. That's just a trend that's happening for a while.
Yeah. Is there anything else we should be thinking about on the fashion front? Virtual catwalks?
Well, I think, that great point, really interesting thing to bring up. What are we going to do about catwalks? I've been going and sitting alongside catwalks for a lot of years now, and I find it highly unlikely that I would be willing to sit bunched up with a bunch of people like that anytime soon. I just don't see it happening. They're going to have to find another way. I think we're seeing some inklings of really smart stuff. McQueen this week has been, they sent out they brought in their longtime, the guy's been doing the music for Alexander McQueen fashion shows. They brought him in to curate Spotify lists of music that's been inspired by and even conceived for fashion shows. Mm-hmm. And I think, what an amazing way to sort of get people close to your brand and connect with them without having a fashion show, which is really what you want to do, right? A fashion show is about bringing people in and having them connect with you. It's not about the individual looks.
Yeah, I as I said earlier, I live in Soho, and so I'm surrounded by retail stores, all of which many of them are boarded up right now, most of which are always empty at all times, really, except for maybe the Gucci store. But do you think the retail Well, I mean, and I think humans always want the experience of the escapism. Do you think now retail will get better at providing the experience? I mean, Gucci they probably do one of the best jobs I know in Soho, but even then they have like a room that's a library. And I'm like, my library across the street is way a better experience
than there.
Yeah. Like I think, to make it warm and get people to spend money and then want to go online. Do you think, I'm sort of hopeful that retail won't disappear, but it will be a better experience.
I think it will be. I mean, there are, the ones that survive will do that, right?
Yeah.
I think, and there's different kinds of retail. There's that kind of retail. This makes you want to come in and be there, and then maybe you'll find something, you'll love the experience of it. Or there's just transactional retail, and there's still bricks and mortar. There are department stores that are going to, I'm sure there's going to be some losses of department stores coming out of this period. I have some ideas about which ones they are. But there are going to be some winners, and those are more transactional kinds of stores, right? They're figuring out how to work in people's lives to fulfill the needs that they have. I think that the sad truth of what's happening now is it's another one of those winnowing things that people who either haven't been around long enough to be established, which is a tragedy, but they're going to lose in terms of stores. So there are going to be fashion labels that are just getting started that we're not going to hear any more from. Some of them have already had to close their stores.
Mm-hmm. Which ones are those? Which ones are you talking about?
I haven't confirmed these. I've just I don't want to pronounce
sure
who's not yet dead.
Well, I noticed, but this isn't a fashion, it's not a brand, and I couldn't have seen it working well anyway. Moda Operandi shut their men's.
They did.
The men's one, and the Modest, presumably it was called, they shut down, which I was sort of surprised that they shut down so quickly, but I don't, I figured their money was mostly Middle Eastern, but I didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, if your balance sheet is not really strong right now, it's going to be really hard. And anything that's sort of narrow in the balance. But that said, that's sad. But let's move beyond that. There are people that are going to have really great ideas. Some of them are having great ideas right now, and they're going to be winners. And I think that consumers of anything, not just fashion, we're going to come out of this with a slightly different mindset, or possibly a majorly different mindset than we've had in the past. And so, I think I'll put this out here. This is something I want to write about in the future. I think that we're going to come out of this in terms of business wear, this whole idea of there was sort of casual Friday or business casual. I think somebody mentioned business comfort to me the other day, and I thought, yep, it's not that we haven't been working toward that. We have been.
Sure.
And everybody's going to have been
at home
in sweats in their underwear for however long.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd automatically snap back and go, oh, now I just want to wear nothing but Chanel. No.
That's not going to happen.
Stretch waists. I don't know. What are you going to be?
What have you got? It's Friday, and I always like to finish with this question. What have you got coming up this weekend that you're looking forward to? Must be some family time or cooking or gardening. How's your gardening doing?
My garden is awesome. It's been raining in LA.
How much rain?
Absolutely glorious. I'm going to plant some carrots and some of the seeds that I'm going to plant.
Okay. I planted some beets a few weeks ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, a lot of them. I love a good beet green, and I like it's 2 for 1, right?
That is very cool. That's true. It is good for 2 for 1. This is a fantastic time to start anything like that. So definitely gardening. Also, it's Easter. Do you know that?
I almost forgot. It's so sad. Yeah.
I don't know. I've got to venture out to figure out where you buy Easter candy.
Oh, I guess the drugstore with a mask, right?
Gloves. Yeah. My kids are too old to need this, but they need Easter candy.
It's nice to have some Easter candy. Everyone needs a little bit of Easter candy. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
My pleasure.
I'm so appreciative. And yeah, for folks who just joined, Chris is a fashion writer, and go back and take a listen to the conversation we just had. And I'm going to close you off, Christina, and I'm going to bring in Aku and Nikki in New York. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So Aku and Nikki are in New York, and they're in Brooklyn, and they are going to DJ for us this evening and live stream. And then also we will have DJ Tough Ghost from LA. All right, I'm going to bring these guys in. Nice.
Girl go wild. I make girl go wild. I make girl go wild. I make and you waves no head. Girl go wild. I make girl go wild. I make girl go wild. I make the best